Hi everybody, welcome back. Thank you for coming on to watch. I'm ready to bring you some of my thoughts in the second video that don't really have to do with the details of the step-by-step journey, but more around the things that have really changed me internally and mentally through this diagnosis. And when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, pending the shock of the diagnosis, I made a promise to myself that I will not be defined by this. There's been a very strong feeling inside of me that I don't want to be known as the person who had or has breast cancer. I am not breast cancer. It does not define me. I am Nastasia, first and foremost, and I happen to have had this diagnosis. So in that journey of really, coming to terms with this, I've made a decision that it's not gonna be who I am. I'm not going to use it to get things or to, make it something that is bigger than it needs to be. But what I will do is allow myself to go through the internal journey of the opportunity it has to help morph me into literally the greatest human I can be, which is already completely started. And so I wanted to come on here today to talk about that part. It's likely my most profound and most impactful message today, and at least that's what it's been to me internally. And so upon getting this diagnosis, my father is an advanced Parkinson's patient, like 20 years. There's moments of lucidity, there's moments of complete not lucidity, and my sister was with him and we decided that we were gonna tell him about the news with my diagnosis. And he called me immediately on the phone in one of his moments of pure innocence and lucidity, and he said, "Listen, Stas, I'm not worried at all. I know everything's gonna be fine. And listen here, we all have our shit, and this is your shit. So you're gonna handle your shit and it's gonna pass and you're gonna be better for it on the other side, but you're never gonna get through life without shit, so this is your shit." And he hung up the phone, and it was so simple but so profound. Isn't it true? Don't we all have our own shit? And so mine comes in the form of this C word, but everybody around me has had it or will have some kind of a major life-altering challenge in the form of something that changes you and something that rocks you. So it's weird to me that sometimes we put this huge terrorized value on a word called cancer, but what about miscarriages? What about horrible divorces? What about loss of people in our lives? Isn't it true that we all have our shit? And so as I hung up the phone with my dad, I was like, oh my God, you're right. This is my shit and I'm gonna deal with it, and I will embrace the learning. I will take on the challenge, and I know some way, somehow, I'm gonna come out better on the other end. While I couldn't see how at the moment, I really believe that to be true. And my second awakening came from the day before my appointment with my surgeon. I went to my chiropractor because my neck was super tense. I was so stressed out with everything going on. And I was sitting waiting for him in the chair. And he walks in and he's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I replied and said, "Oh, I'm fucked." And he pulled up the chair and sat down and he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Dude, I just fucking got diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm fucked." And he sat down in the chair and talked to me for an entire hour because he's just the greatest human ever. And he gave me a pathway of the beginning of my spiritual and internal awakening. And he explained to me that for 4 years he's been telling me I've been redlined. For 4 years he's been telling me I have to make a change. If I don't, something's gonna happen. When am I gonna learn? How am I gonna get this figured out? And he was like, "Dude, I've been telling you for 4 years the way that you've been living is not sustainable. And now you're gonna have to go figure out your way to change your lifestyle." And I was like, "Yeah, you're fucking right." And as we were talking, it became very clear to me. We live in a society where it's almost like this obligation to be under extreme stress and to be constantly in survival mode. It's like if we're not in survival mode, we're not working hard enough. We're not trying hard enough. We're not a good enough spouse. We're not a good enough employee. We're not a good enough friend. It's like we've conditioned ourselves to believe if we don't run ourselves all the way to like the end of the wire, then we're not doing enough. And why is it that way? It does not have to be that way. And I fell victim of this. I mean, not just a little. I have fallen victim of this a lot. And when you're in this survival mode, or you can think about it as like redlined extreme stress, physiologically what happens inside is you become addicted to those stress hormones. And it becomes like your personality. And what I mean by that, and what I mean by the stress hormones are like, I had a huge realization that I have been driven and basically dictated by fear for years now. I have become so scared of everything. Scared of things that happened in the past, scared of things that are currently happening in the present, scared of things that could or I think are going to happen in the future. And that's part of this whole being redlined and being pushed to the limit and living in the survival mode. Other feelings would also include comparisons. It would include things like being very angry, resentful, competitive in a way that's unhealthy, wishing poorly onto others. I mean, things that, I could cry as I sit here and say them, are like the furthest of who I am at my core. And in that meeting with him, I was like listening and then having all these thoughts around how in the fuck did I get here and not even realize it. It's like I coined this term, like, to explain it, I feel like I've become addicted to being a bitch. And that's not who I am. So in the lack of taking care of myself and in the choice of not taking time to work on me over the last years, this is where I've come. So I left that room. He told me to go get a book. I went and got the book the exact same day. And the realization was probably like the toughest part of it. And the healing has been the best part of it. I'm always a crier. So sorry, I hope I'm not making you cry. So I went and I got the book. And as I'm reading and having these realizations that as far away as I got from my true self, whatever I fucked up, I can fix. And I'm a firm believer that years and years of toxic thinking and being totally redlined to a level of like inner dysfunction, I got away from who I am, but I can get back. And then the same thing, if you truly believe that, would then translate into the disease. So whatever the disease, whatever created this disease can also uncreate it. And the power of the mind became completely evident that that's what I needed to work on in order to get through this. And so in addressing those feelings and in figuring out why they were happening, it took me hours one night to change affirmations from I'm fearful to I'm grateful. From I don't have enough to I have a world of abundance. From I'm scared of the future to I'm excited for what's yet to come. Like even just to write those words on a piece of paper were challenging for me. And now have become very easy for me to see and to believe. And so with this inner spiritual awakening and this openness to be real about where I got and be vulnerable to move myself back to my true inner self of who I am and who I want to be, I have told you in one of my posts, I'm already healed. I've taken the time every day now to not just physically be healthy, meaning working out and eating well, but to be spiritually and mentally and emotionally healthy. So every single morning I do a meditation for 20 to 30 minutes to start my day. Every evening I meditate for an hour. Meditation could be called prayer, connection to your source, connection to the universe. Like, it doesn't matter how you want to say it, but being able to get outside of your physical body and into your subconscious to create and to connect. I've been reading daily. I mean, I've read over the last years, but I'm constantly reading to serve others in a leadership role. And I was never reading for myself. And now I read for myself every day, and I journal every day, and I set my mind to the things that I want. And I give thanks to the future as if it's already occurred to create the future that I want. So this has been the most wonderful part of this diagnosis. You could be told, you could read books. If you're not ready to really get it, you won't. And I'm thankful that this diagnosis made me ready and made me open to a change in my life that was not only necessary, but also will allow me to lead the rest of my life with love and joy and happiness. I feel this overwhelming feeling to get through this and then to give to others, to give back. Not in a job or a leadership role. It could be giving back my time or giving back money to certain causes or creating a purpose that's larger than myself, because now that I understand everything happening in love, there's nothing that I can't achieve. So it's my message of the day. It's a very vulnerable one, but a very honest one. So thank you for watching.